How dog training is like Pilates. Now, I know you've probably been intrigued by this title, and this is why you've come thinking, what on earth is Tilly on about? Does she mean that we're kind of like bending dogs around? Is this some sort of kind of like therapy for dogs where we're massaging them or making them extra fit and things like that? It's not to do with that, it's more to do with the mentality. And this will be very helpful for you when you're training. It's a type of mindset that I want people to really understand, because it's really difficult getting through to the concept of owners. And if you're a trainer, you will know this already, but getting to the concept of how to train a dog within their limits, within their range that they have. Okay, so Pilates. I've just started Pilates. Didn't really know what to expect. I just knew it was kind of like a hard yoga, right? And what it is you're kind of bending around it and holding a particular move. So it is about being supple, but it's a lot of strength as well. I was really sore afterwards. It killed me. I love it, but yeah, everything was sore for about 3 days. It was so hard. And when I got there, I'm one of the youngest in the class, and they are so much better than I am. And when I was younger, my ego would have taken over, and I would have thought, God, everyone's 20 years older than me. I am going to do what they can do. And she's very good, the teacher. She gives you kind of 2 or 3 levels to every position. So she says, right, this one you do on your knees. It could be like a side bend, or if you can, do it on your feet. And yeah, admittedly, I did do it on my feet the first time. Second time, I did it on my knees because I knew better. But I started comparing myself to everybody else, which is ridiculous because they've been doing it for months, if not years, and I've never ever done it in my life. And since COVID, actually, the lockdown, I lost all my muscle mass anyway. I'm just a blob kind of at this point. So it is ridiculous for me to compare myself to what these people can. In my head, obviously, I know that I can achieve these things, which is important. I'm not self limiting. You know, I could be as flexible as the teacher, potentially, if I did it every single day, if I really set my heart on it. Why not? I can be like these people, but I am nowhere near these people at all, at all. So that was the first thing I had to get my head around, that really I'm starting from a much lower rate. The next thing, which is important to know, is that I have a range of flexibility within each class. So, what does that mean? It basically means that while I'm learning to do this, by the end of the class, I'm still not going to be as good as the other people because I haven't given my muscles time to build up the strength, or my brain time to think, now what is she on about with the breathing? Do I do my arms in? You know, where do I breathe? Am I breathing, inhaling it? You know, so I'm not giving myself enough time to think that I can be as flexible, strong, and connected as these people, even by the end of the session. What you do is, say there was one position where I'm on the floor, my legs are straight, they're out in front of me, but they're kind of at an angle, so it's almost like a giant triangle, right? So they're straight out in front of me, if you can imagine that. And the teacher, very flexible, she's got her elbows on the floor in front of her, so she's leaning down with her elbows on the floor, which looked really easy. I can assure you it wasn't. It wasn't easy. I could barely bend my neck in comparison. And what you do is you bend a bit, you hold it, you straighten up, and then you kind of flex your legs a bit. So you kind of pump, you're flexing your legs, and then as you breathe, you bend down. And we repeated this like 10 times. And even before she said it, I thought, oh, I'm getting close to the floor. My elbows are nearly on the floor. Um, because I was improving in that time. And then she said, can you see that you're flexing more on each time? Your body is giving that little more each time. And that was really interesting to me. And as time progresses, I will get stronger and more flexible and things like that. So, how does this relate to our dog training? The first one is, whatever dog you have, do not compare it to the dogs around you. If you have a really reactive dog that's barking at everything, do not think, why on earth? I'm coming to the dog park, everyone else is playing, they're offly, they're running, they're not barking. Why on earth isn't my dog like that? It's just not. It's just at a different training level completely. Probably different personality, it might have had different experiences. Dog training is infinitely more complicated than Pilates, especially with reactivity. Anything outdoors, you can't control the environment. It's really hard to layer up properly. because you can't control it. It's not like anything else, any other dog training. You can massively control what you're doing, like leave it. It's all, under control in the home. Even barking at the front door, you can just get someone else to help you control it. Outdoors, you've got no control, so it is much harder. But it's the same thing. Do not have that expectation of, your dog's just started the training. Realistically, if you haven't done any training with your dog at all up until this point, it doesn't matter that you've gone out twice a day for the last 4 years. You've done nothing. You are on day one. You are on exactly where I was when I walked into that classroom. There is nothing going on. Do not feel disappointed that your dog is behaving the way he is compared to everyone else. The next thing, don't have self-limiting beliefs, which can be really hard. But your dog does have the potential to be like pretty much most of the other dogs out there. They are predispositioned to things. Some run off more, some like to pull, some like to bark. But, there's no reason why your dog can't be relaxed, happy, connected with you. That's really all we want from our dogs, is that they're calm, not barking their heads off and stressed out, and they're connected. So connected means they're not pulling, they've got recall, they're not zoning in onto something. They're connected with you. They're in that relationship with you, which is basically what everyone wants. That they want that tight relationship with their dog, not a dog that just leaves and goes into his own bubble all the time. Even dogs that kind of hunt with people, there is still a level of connection because you're working, as a pack, if you like. So there is still a level of connection. You don't really want your dog on its own unless it's doing a singular activity like a greyhound, just running in a straight line or around the circuit. So have the potential to think. Don't make too many excuses. Don't think, oh, it was bitten as a puppy. Oh, he had a loud bang when he was 5. Don't think on that too much because it limits your belief. Your dog has the potential to be like pretty good, not perfect. We're not looking for service dogs, but pretty good. It would be very easy for me because I've started street dance as well. I'm doing a jack of all trades, loads of stuff. I went in and again, so first of all, I'm older than everyone, including the teacher, and everyone's done this before when they were really tiny children. I've never had a dance class in my life. It would be very easy for me to, well, first of all, it's highly embarrassing, but it's easy for me to go, I'll never be as good as them. I'll never be as good as them because they're young, they're fit, their brains are better. At one point I did start thinking that because I couldn't, the steps are so fast. I thought that they just must be better at thinking this way. I've been doing it nearly a year now and I'm finally starting to remember some of the moves. It's taken a long time, but it's not. Their brains aren't better than mine. They're no different. So don't have a self-limiting belief. You can achieve stuff, but give yourself time. Now, what the main thing is that why it's about Pilates is you stay within the dog's range. So at no point when I was doing this breathing and sliding slowly to the floor, no point did someone kind of sit on my shoulders and squash me into the ground and break my spine. And there was no point where I was thinking when I'm doing a shoulder move that I should give myself cramp in order to move that way. You just move within the limit. My limit at that time is much smaller than everyone else's limit. And your dog is going to be the same. So this means if your dog is dog reactive, work within the limits. Don't keep working until you're right up next to a dog and then do the work there. That's ridiculous. You have to stay within your dog's range. It's not as obvious because the dog isn't telling you I'm in amounts of pain or I'm just not moving or whatever. You have to read it yourself. So where is your dog's limit? Actually, this is quite obvious, really. Well, it's not obvious, but it's simple. It's simple. It is your dog's limit is where the connection point ends. So if your dog isn't connected with you, that's the limit. That is his limit. Do not go any further than that. It would be just like someone grabbing my arm and shoving it up to the sky. No, I'm working within my limit. My limit is a lot less than other people because I haven't done it. So this would be your dog not connected. What does that mean exactly? It means you can't get their attention. Ideally, they wouldn't bark either, right? So some dogs, like collies, they're very they can change their minds very, very quickly, which is quite good to work with. But you don't want a dog that kind of barks, then looks at you for its treat, because he will always bark. You want a dog, you don't want to repeat a behaviour that you don't like. So you don't want a dog bark, look at you, get a treat, because he's still barking, right? He's almost being taught to bark. You want to do that before the bark. So before any noise, same separation anxiety. Same with any door barking. You don't want any barking in the training because it's detrimental. If you've done that, you've just gone too far. You've gone out of the range. You've gone out of the limit. The dog's lost connection. So wherever that is, with some dogs we've had it doesn't really tolerate a dog in the park at all. It can't tolerate it. Some dogs can tolerate a dog, like Flicker, she can tolerate a dog up to 1 foot away. So you'd think that's quite close, and actually that's very manageable for me. We can just walk and we just kind of go around dogs. It becomes unmanageable when Off-Lead dog comes over because it all escalates very quickly, but that's her limit. And some dogs have a limit where they just see a dog and start losing connection. A lot of limit is all about distance, so it's about creating the distance. I'll give you another example though, because it's not just about dog reactivity and stuff like that. Connection is anything. Connection is on the walk. If I have a dog, usually German Shepherds, and they're dog reactive, we step outside, the dog's pulling like a train. It's like, well, we can't find dogs because there's no connection. There's nothing going on. The dog is on his own and I'm being dragged around. Why would he start listening when I see a dog if he's not listening now? It's just not going to happen. You have to stay within the limits of the dog. So this means we sort out pulling. You sort out pulling simply by doing stuff like changes of direction, pushing them backwards, drip feeding treats. There's loads and loads of techniques, and different ones work for different personalities and breeds. So you kind of have to try them out and then use a combination to work out. But you can't, there's no point in me kind of going for finding a dog and trying to get a connection. Oh, there's a dog, right, let's try and connect now, when for 10 minutes we've practiced complete disconnection. Also, the dog is completely in control of the walk. I'm not, so why would he start listening then as well? I've told him, you're the leader, you're absolutely on it, I'm just being dragged around. There's no respect going on. He hasn't practiced a connection with me. And then if I try and get it when we see a dog, when he really doesn't want to connect, if we haven't practiced it in the easy bit, it's just not going to happen. Or I'm going to have to use such harsh techniques that it's going to be, not kind for the dog. So don't lose that connection. Always make sure you get it first. Most dogs I see lose connection as soon as they step out the front door. So that's where you have to work, And a bit like Pilates again, what we did was repeat. So I repeated that one tiny movement a number of times, and I could slowly, in millimeters, see myself getting close to the floor on each time. And this is what you have to do with your dog. Wherever they can work and stay connected, you go right to the range. So you're already stretching your dog out like I'm stretching for the floor. I can feel everything ache. Your dog is being stretched to the limit. He's looking at the dog. He's still looking at you. You can start to see he's getting agitated. The tail's going up. He's getting a bit tense. He's listening to you less and less. That's where you stop. So you stop that and then you reset. So I feel everything's locked. It's quite painful. And then I reset. I sit up. Everything's relaxed again. And that's the same for the dog. You take them back to a state of relaxation. Now, if your dog loses connection as soon as he steps out the front door, guess what you have to do? You have to go back inside. And it takes as long as it takes. Some dogs, most dogs to be honest, we go back inside, I connect for 1 second. That's all it takes. And then we do it again. And we do that 10 times. I leave the house 10 times. We don't go anywhere. We just, can you stay connected to me outside the house? No, we'll do it again. This is your limit. You're not listening. We have to repeat it. And we reset. We want nice, relaxed dog before you can come back. Just like my Pilates. It's like, right, I'm sitting up. And now we're going to stretch again. And you'll find that each time you get further and further. But at no point, just because you're getting further and further, so, I had an example of 2 little Jack Russells barking their heads off all the time, barking as soon as they left the house, barking at everything. We got a really nice walk with them. We managed to see dogs kind of across the road. That was their limit. At no point, this is the problem I have with owners. She's like, oh, but they've seen a dog and they're still reacting. At no point the dog's going to suddenly just stop barking for everything. That's totally unreasonable. I'm getting close to the ground with millimeters, bare millimeters. I'm not suddenly got my elbows on the floor in one session. It's going to take months. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's going to take a long time. And this is the same thing for those dogs. They did really well. In increments, we managed to get them to leave the house without pulling, 2 dogs, listening, managing to reconnect when they saw a dog over the road without much barking. And that, for them, I thought was really good. The fact that they've just stopped pulling is really good. That's kind of the level you should expect, just tiny bits of progress. It's not going to be right, we go into a park and now we're all playing games and there's a dog there barking at them, I want them to ignore. That all comes in time, loads of time. You know, and it's annoying when owners don't see this progress. Progress is in increments, just like Pilates. And as far as time limits, everyone asks the same thing. How long is it going to take? I don't know. Why would I know that? I don't know. I don't have a clue. Your dog, his connection, I don't know how much you're going to train. And also, I don't know how good you are at training. You know, so if I wanted to learn the splits now, I don't know. Probably I'd set myself a year, but really I'm guessing. I have no idea. I'm pretty stiff. I've never done the splits. I would just go like that. Let's give yourself a year, practice every day, a couple of minutes, and see how we get on. That's all I can really say. See how you get on. If you do the time, the dog will change. If you do things correctly, the dog will change. If you work outside the dog limits, the dog won't change. That's all I know. What we're doing is we're looking for progress, not perfection in a day. So you've got to have that mindset of that's what's happening. We just want progress. Bear in mind that things change as well. Now remember, dog training infinitely more complex than Pilates. But for an example, say I've done a shoulder injury, which actually I do quite a lot because I work with big dogs. So I'm always with the osteopath trying to get this blooming right shoulder fixed. It kills me. So say dogs pulled it out, then I go to Pilates. Do you think that I'm as flexible as I usually am? No, I'm not. I'm holding back. Like psychologically, I know that if I push to the limit, I'm going to damage it further. So I hold it back myself. But the pain will hold me back too. Stuff will happen in your dog's day that might mean you have a worse day than normal. When you slide backwards, so you might have a day where your dog has only barked at one dog. The next day or the next week, you might bark at 80% of dogs. What's happened? Well, there could be numerous things that have happened, to be honest. Don't have defeat. It's easy for me because I know, oh, my shoulder hurts, and then I think back, oh God, it was that XL bully that pulled it out. Yeah, so I can think back. I have the capacity to think like that, and it's my own body, which I'm fully in control of. You're in control of a dog, which is an entity, then you will never really know his mind and what he experiences. There's no way. You can't climb inside his head. You'll never know. Things that can set off dogs could be anything from a bang that happened a couple of streets away that kind of went over your head. It can be something like yesterday or the day before we have a lot of people around and the dog isn't that comfortable with people, or he gets stressed. The stress can still be carrying on from a couple of days. All these little stresses will have influences on your walk. So don't expect progress to be linear. It's not. It's all over the place. And this sets it back as well. But still, you work within your dog's range, which can change. My range with a dodgy shoulder is going to be far limited and without. Your dog's range, when he's just stepped out the front door and some great big Alsatian has just started lunging at him, is suddenly going to be a lot more depleted for the rest of the walk, maybe even for tomorrow's walk as well. So think on that. Don't kind of admit defeat. If you work within your dog's range, as long as you're pushing to the very limit, then he will improve. If I did Pilates and I didn't push my body to the limit and I didn't feel that kind of like ache, I would never improve. You've got to push to the limit, but you don't want to break your dog. I'm not kind of like crushing myself into a ball or anything. I'm not trying to break my body. I'm just setting a tone. It's like, yeah, this is it. I mean, you know, it just stops moving in the end. It just literally just won't move any further forward or backward or whatever you want, right? So you've got to think of the same as your dog, but in terms of body language. So if you're not great at reading body language, just look for the connection. Can my dog look at me? Lots of times. You know, can he listen to the tug on the lead? Your dog should listen to a tug on a lead, as in a tug, as in, it's difficult to describe the amount, but it is like a tug. So it's not a yank. You're not kind of trying to change the direction of the dog. It's not that hard. A medium tug. So a medium tug is kind of when you move their front 2 feet. So a little dog is obviously quite light, but the front 2 feet move sideways. That's you kind of tug sideways. With a big dog, it's obviously a bigger tug to move those feet. But if you know, that's a medium tug. That's more of a training tug, just to kind of slow them down, because their feet are kind of moving forwards, and then when you force them to move sideways, they have to slow down, otherwise they'll fall over. But it has to be a lot lighter than that. So if you're not getting connection on a tug that doesn't move their feet, put it like that, a tug that doesn't move their feet, then you've got to pull back. So it's like, oh, we've gone too deep, we're past the range, quick, let's pull back, reset, and start slowly ploughing on again and see where we are. When I get dogs that scream when they go out, sounds strange, it's quite a rare problem, but we see it quite a lot because we're very good at it. Usually with Frenchies, because they make all those horrible noises. But it sounds like, you know, when you've ever trodden on your dog's foot by mistake, or if your dog was attacked as a puppy, those horrible, squealy, absolutely heartbreaking sounds. It's like that, but it goes on and on and on. There's no gap. You know, owners are mortified because people come running from down the street thinking it sounds like the dog's being stabbed. If you had to imagine it, that's what it sounds like. It is awful. Is it fear? No, absolutely not. It is high excitement, which is adrenaline. The adrenaline has to escape from the dog, and it escapes in noise, and it is horrendous. So, where do we start with this? With a dog that doesn't just bark at dogs, but it barks as soon as it goes out the door. Some bark as soon as you get the leads out. So again, we work within the limit. If the dog's making noise, we're past the range. So guess what? We don't go out. We get the leads on and off. And I might do that 20 times while I'm just sitting on the sofa. And then what I'll add in is I'll stand up. Dogs are barking, leads come off. That's it. I'll sit down again. It takes a long time. And this is sometimes why we need a few sessions with somebody, because if you've got a problem this big and then you want to work on dog reactivity, I need to fix this first. I need you to fix this first, and I don't know how long it's going to take you and your dog to fix this before we can go out and look for dogs, because there's no point. I can't speed it up. I have to have the dog relaxed. Sometimes it can take 10 minutes. So I literally, all I'll do is get the lead on, take it off, wait 10 minutes, and then get it on again. And, over kind of like 10, 20 times, it takes a long time. And then I'll do is I'll start walking to the door and again, take them off, completely ignore the dogs. I'll sit down, the dog's relaxed. That is their range, right? So pure relaxation. When it's a problem that big, I want the dog actually lying down within that time. I don't want them just sitting looking at me. I want them lying down. They don't have to be asleep or even with their head on the floor, but they've got to have slumped somewhere where they're like, oh, Tilly's just got the lead on and off again for absolutely no reason. I might as well sit still now. And then I start piecing it together. At no point do the dogs think to themselves, Tilly's done all these little increment bits 20 times in a row. I bet she's going to do it again at the front door or round the drive. They never think that. They just go back to their old pattern of door means excitement, drive means excitement, dog means excitement. You know, they never think, God, Tilly's going to do this again. They don't think that because that's just not how they work. They don't generalise. But I will. It's like, right, we'll go through the door. Oh, back you go. Try again, back you go. Try again, back you go. If they became relaxed with the lead still on, I don't need to take it off. Their range has changed, okay? So I don't need to kind of have a dog asleep every time, but I just need them to relax. If they can relax on the drive after we've just whizzed round the corner, we don't need to even go in. We just stay on the drive. Nice relaxed dog. I want those soft ears, which are they're kind of back/sideways. Yeah, depending on how you look at it. No wrinkling on the forehead. Nice soft eyes. They might be panting a little bit, so kind of mouth open, really nice, kind of relaxed, happy dog. Or kind of calmly sniffing, no mania, and then we start again. So it's a lot of repetition. I think what people try and do a lot is that they just go for a normal walk and try and train the dog as they're walking along, but that would be like me doing all these different positions once. So we're going to go into a breaststroke thing. I'm going to do that once, okay, and I expect you to be able to do it stretch as far back as you absolutely possibly can within that one time. Right, next, we're going into kind of like a tabletop with your legs kind of, they're bent in the air. And now you want to stretch those and hold those for 30 seconds. Right, now we're doing something else. There's be absolutely no learning involved. It's probably going to be quite painful and quite stressful, and I won't be able to get my head around it. I want the dog to be able to repeat what he can do, and just at the very, very end, something he's struggling with. That's all I want. And then once he's completed that, we can go back. Dogs that change before your very eyes are very, very rare, and you can achieve a lot with them because you can go through absolutely everything and show the owners all the different techniques for all the scenarios. But it's really rare when a dog is like that. Most dogs need to repeat everything so many times for it to sink in. And it's really difficult for owners to get their head around it, because while you're trying to leave the house 10 times, they're like, oh, but my problem is with dogs. No, it isn't. Your problem is the high excitement your dog feels or the high fear your dog feels. And it's already starting now. We need to stop this now. We need to keep resetting your dog to 0 all the time. Because if your dog is on a level 3 out of 10 and below, when he sees a dog, he's only going to jump to 5 or 6. If we head out that door and your dog's pulling and panting, he's on level 6, no doubt about that. Then when we see a dog, now we're on 8 or 8 to 10. That's insane. That kind of reaction is insane. So we need to make sure your dog can't get to there by starting him at a lower level. And this is what I really have to try hard for people to do. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's quite tedious, you know, but you've got to look at what you enjoy. I quite enjoy kind of Pilates, the fact that I'm slowly getting better, and it's calming and things like that. You've got to find the same thing. You should enjoy teaching your dog something new. The something new is calm, being connected with you. You should enjoy that connection, that relationship. You should enjoy that more than just walking down the road with a dog pulling you all the way, because that isn't a dog walk. That is just, you know, some bizarre exercise where you get your arm pulled. That isn't anything. That's nothing to do with having a dog. Having a dog is training, a high level of training, and a deep connection that you keep deepening over the years as you get to learn each other's habits and being curious about what your dog needs and wants and how that communicates to you. So you should really spend times in whatever it is, even if it's resource guarding or separation anxiety, the first little bits, finding the dog's range is the most important thing, and then working within it. And it's like, well, this is it. I mean, I had one separation anxiety and they nailed it. They did it. Dog can be fine, dog can be left. It took them a month before they could leave the house. Now that sounds insane, but if you think about it, you know, dog's life 15 years, they can leave the house now. You know, that bit took them a month because the dog's following them around. So I start separation anxiety, which is always really severe. Separation anxiety starts indoors. The dog, before you even leave the house, the dog needs to be absolutely happy with being left in a single room with the door shut and you somewhere else in the house without crying or stressing. Because when you've got to that level, all you need to do then is kind of trick the dog into thinking you're still around and then start leaving. And increasing the time of that 1 hour. Once you've got to an hour, everything else becomes a lot easier. It's getting to that hour. But they did really well. They did everything I told them, and they said it was tedious. We had to repeat all the time, you know, working in increments. You don't want the dog to stress at all, so it's coming in and out of the room over and over and over. You're coming in and out of that room and ignoring the dog and checking to see where his distress levels are. Are we still working within the range of the dog, or does he need a break? And they did it. So anything can be done, but you must stay within the range. Just like Pilates with me, I will stay within the range. There's at no point will I get kind of frustrated or my ego think, God, you know, I'm 30 and they're 50. I should be able to do this. I'm going to do it. There's no way I'm going to do that. I'm going to stay within my range. My range will increase, and I'm enjoying the process to getting there. This is how I need you to be with your dog. Enjoy that process. Enjoy your dog. Tiny, tiny repetitions. If you're interested in more videos or stuff that I do, I am on TikTok. I usually put my TikTok videos also on Facebook and Instagram, so just search Fawn Dog for those. And the main website is fawndog1to1dogtraining.co.uk. Thanks for listening, guys.